I just can't make it rain. Criminal without can't too far to turn back. The return of the lyricist. Get it together.
Hey, what's up? It's Mike Brown. You listen to You Good, the podcast. We're trying to destigmatize the conversations about mental health. Today's guest is Kid Fury, friend, family member in a way. Man, I just love him. I've known him for so long. We go back to like MySpace days, and before I guess the world knew about Kid Fury, that's been it's just been my people, and I'm so glad that he was able to do this episode. He's actually one of the reasons that I'm able to do this podcast here. And we get into it. We talk about mental health in general. We talk about, family, the black experience, the West Indian, Jamaican experience, Miami. It's really dope. I know that if you're a fan of The Read, you're probably aware of some of the things that like he's been through. And if not, you're just going to get an honest, raw conversation with one of my favorite people. And, I really hope you guys enjoy it. Check it out. This is different. That's how much this is different.
We've done this before.
Yeah, I mean we've done it before, but like when we did the Comedy Outliers one, it was just like a whatever one, and then even like with the Read one, it was like I think I was like promoting the the Decepticon show or something.
Yeah.
And it was just like cool, but like this one is like it's like okay, so my first real guest was Dustin.
Okay.
I don't know if you talked to him about it at all.
No, not yet.
Okay, well. It's a really good episode. Okay, it's really good because like it's like so this is the whole thing. The podcast is called You Good, and it's basically you saw the pitch about like we're just trying to destigmatize conversations about like mental health and all that shit, right?
Right.
And one of the reasons I wanted to start the podcast is because I felt like I don't know if you even know this, but I was in a mental hospital in I checked myself in like November because I had like a straight breakdown. One of my best friends got murdered and all this stuff, and so it's like. And even like in high school from like being bullied, feeling ostracized and all that, it was like there wasn't anybody really to talk to. Like I did go to like to therapy during times, but it was always like these Jewish people or these like older white dudes who had no idea what was going on. So I was like, it'd be really dope if there was like a podcast where you just had two like public figures just talking about mental health, being like, oh, these are the things I went through, and not even just that, but like, and this is how I've been able to like maintain, because I feel like there's like no real place to get that other than I think therapy. But I didn't want to have like a thing where it was like it's like a therapy podcast, because that's not what it is. It's just like we're just talking about like real shit, like, oh, I went through this and this is how I got through it, because I feel like listeners hope this is my goal with this. I hope that listeners can like listen to it and be like, oh, I love Kid Fury. Let me see what he has to say, and then you're talking about things that like mean something to you, and I'm like telling you things that like might relate to what you went through, and it might help like I guess like that next generation, even like people like in our age bracket, people older than us, and especially like the youth, so they can be like, okay, I'm not like there is hope. You know what I mean? So, and that's the whole purpose of the podcast. And that's why I always I do the intros and outros separately. And I just bring people that I like, love and respect, and just be like, hey, what do you want to talk about? Or, so, yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I am like a strong and very vocal advocate for mental health awareness at the very least. I too was, the young black, the young black kid who was dealing with depression and all of this stuff, but never had anyone to speak to, and also never really recognized it as a thing. I thought that was just me, and that's the way that I was. Yeah. And even when I was maybe 15 or 16 years old, and I did go to therapy, it was like teen angst, bullying, all the regular shit that teenagers go through. Yeah. Also, with me being gay, that was a huge part of it. So I was like an easy and incredibly visible target. Yeah. So I went to therapy again, thinking this is just how I am, and teenagers are fucked up and whatever. I just need somebody to figure out whatever this is. And we went and met this older white man, gray hair and everything, bookcase full of books and all of the, Uncle Phil looking shit. And I sat there and I think I saw him twice. And I don't really feel like we accomplished much. He ended up telling my mother after the second session that he felt like I was dyslexic.
What?
And possibly had ADHD or something like that. Maybe without the H. I don't know. Those two things confuse me. There's ADD and ADHD. Yeah. I think I get it.
There's one is like hyperactive disorder, right? And then the other one is like attention deficit or something. So one is like either you're really hype or you just can't pay attention.
I think that's like the main difference.
The difference of the two. Yeah. I'm not, it's no expert. This is the safest space.
Right. So I don't think I ever got like officially diagnosed. But he was just speaking to my mother, and he said, I kind of feel like these are two things we need to look out for and test. Never saw him again. My mother was like, okay, so first of all, don't be disrespectful. Secondly, like, he doesn't know what you're talking about. That's why we have God. So, I was fine with that. And honestly, I didn't really feel like he was doing me any good. Now at 30, I recognize that I had a wall up because he was white and older and straight. You know what I'm saying? I don't think I recognized it at the time. I was just like, I'm not talking to this bitch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And now I recognize, like, I had nothing in common with this man. There's no way that he could understand anything that I'm talking about for real. Maybe from like a scientific or academic standpoint, but there was nothing there.
Dude, it's like, and even it's interesting because it's like when I would go to like therapy when I was younger, it was like the race thing where I was like, well, you just don't know how it feels just to be black in America, because that experience, being black is different for everybody, but we all share that same experience of America looking at us as black people. Right,
exactly.
And then beyond that, you throw in like my father's Jamaican side and coming up under the West Indian influence and like me being raised by my mom before like I moved with my dad when I was 15. And it's like, my dad was like, why is he not manly like I feel manly should be? Right. So something's wrong with my kid.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like that West Indian part of it too is like such a heavy.
Absolutely. My father was out in the front yard teaching us how to like basically change the car oil and fix transmission when we were maybe 6. Like, I feel like I could sit on the hood of the car and watch, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How to change tires, all of this other stuff that was supposed to be like, man of the house stuff and whatever. And I don't feel any kind of way about any of that. I don't feel like it even had anything to do with sexuality or us, being manly men. I think that that's just something that his father taught him how to do, and, his father's father and such is like, what dads do for their boys especially, but I would be leaned up on this car pretending to pay attention like, I don't give a fuck about this. When I get a car, somebody else is going to do this. Like, I don't give a fuck about none of what you're talking about. I don't care about how to fix the cabinets. Like, this is fucking stupid.
Like, why? Like, why do I have a set of hammers? Like, Dad, what are you doing?
And to this day, like, I regret it because I'm useless. I'm useless in the house. I'm so garbage. Like, I couldn't put up like my first curtain, like the rod for the curtains in my first apartment.
The New York one?
Yes.
The one in
over there on 139th.
I remember that one.
The Spanish not do anything. I still am like garbage when it comes to like fixing or maintaining things. Like, I just tried to to replace the fucking batteries in my smoke alarm in the apartment, and I was up there looking like a fucking dumbass for like 10 straight minutes. So, like, I get it, but yeah, being Jamaican, like, that's also another difference in blackness, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's the Black American and how you were raised versus the Black West Indian versus the Black, African person or what have you. So, yeah, I like going to therapy and stuff at that age. It accomplished nothing.
And you only went those 2 times? That was it?
Yeah, I really went those 2 times. As soon as he started talking about like actually diagnosing me with things, my mother just took offense to it, and she was like, "Fuck that bitch," and we never went back.
Oh man!
And so it was like what it was, and I recently just started going to therapy again, maybe almost 3 years ago now.
That's not too. I mean, that's recent, but it's still like.
Yeah.
What's that? 2015.
Yeah. So like,
how's that been?
It's been much better because I'm older. A lot of the, when you're a teenager and you just feel like the whole world is against you and everybody's stupid and just like that whole feeling, I've been able to identify, just matured. So now I can kind of like call a spade and be real with myself about things. And my therapist is Black and female. So yeah, I intentionally wanted to speak to a Black woman. Does
she have a website? Is this the
I don't know if she has a website, but she's not like
a big time. There's somebody, there's like a Black woman who has a website who's like kind of like
daytime talk show.
Yeah, I want to say like a real one because they are real
in the hospital.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
like it's, I used to go to this counselor / therapist in Queens Center Hospital. Shout out to them. But I just hated going to the hospital one because it was such a process of going to see him. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like you gotta go, you gotta wait for like 30 minutes or so. And man, if we need like more Black therapists with just like private offices. Like if it's like 7, I want to go there at 7, see them at 7.
Right.
Because my anxiety is just not having the whole waiting.
Yeah. My doctor actually left the hospital I can't even remember what hospital it was here in the city, somewhere. The one that's over there by Union Square.
Okay.
But
I was like,
she left there like maybe about a year into us meeting, and then went to like a private office. So it's been even easier to speak to her, and we can do phone sessions as well. So she's really dope, and I felt, if anything, more comfortable letting my guard down and being more open and talking about things I feel like she would take seriously because we have the common traits of being Black.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, Black women are just like natural nurturing beings, and it's so horrible that like, you know what I'm saying? Like we think of women having like being that way, Black women specifically, since they're always put like at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to people. But still, for whatever reason, like I feel like it's almost like Black women are just the best.
They're the source.
They're really just like the beginning of Earth. Like, I just feel like they're just the fucking best, and I knew that nobody was going to really be like connective with me, or I don't know. I just feel I can be honest.
How'd you find her?
Honestly, I hit up ZocDoc.
Okay, so you went straight to online.
I just went straight to ZocDoc, and I was, because ZocDoc will like show you their pictures and where their stuff, and I was like, okay, give me the Black ones.
Yeah, just if you're not Black and you say that, that's racist shit. But like,
there's not like an advanced search feature where you can put in race. Like, I don't know about it, but like I just scrolled through, and I looked at all of the Black women that I saw on the list and read the reviews. And actually, I saw another woman prior to meeting her.
Okay.
A woman who was
Black
a little
woman,
bit older.
or?
Yeah, another Black woman prior to her. But she didn't like, I just felt like something was a little off. I felt like she was more in a hurry to like be like, okay, this is where you fucking up at, rather than like actually digesting what I'm saying and being like empathetic.
Yeah.
Whereas the woman that I meet with now is just like, you know what? Yeah, that is trash. And you know what else? That is trash too. And then weaves into here's what we do. So it's not like this whole, oh yeah, bitch, you are crazy. Here's some pills. Figure that out. So yeah, therapy's the best.
What was like your thing that, I guess like after going those 2 times when you're 15 and then like, I guess being 27 and being like, you know what, I'm gonna go to therapy again. Was there anything that like changed you or like pushed you into doing therapy?
Yeah, when my grandma died.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
My grandmother died. Okay, so first of all, being this recognizable figure on the internet comes with its own challenges. And I've thought to do like a mini series of people who are recognizable in one way or the next, who do suffer from depression. Like I want to do something where people like that speak from that perspective, because there are so many, like, I know it's not just me, and I have conversations with people who are like, you know what I'm saying, out here on TV, on tour, whatever,
and they're going through it,
and they are going the fuck through it.
This is what this is.
Added layer to what that is, because you can't just go to your job, you know what I'm saying, and sit at your desk and be depressed and then clock out and go the fuck home. Like, when you go to the grocery store, you might have to deal with somebody who wants to take a picture with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got maybe family members who need some money, or you got, it's just like, there's a lot that's added to that as well. And I feel like there are a lot of people who maybe work in a certain industry where they are recognizable to one effect or the next, and there aren't that many people to talk. Because I can't really talk to my therapist and be like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was at Essence Fest and it was so crowded and my anxiety was all over the place because everybody was wanted to take pictures with me, and like, I just wanted to go lay down in my closet. Like, she can't be like, oh, been there, you know, like. So I feel like but anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, but that's like one of the reasons why I was like, I wanted to start this. You know what I mean? Because like, I remember even like back in, I mean, not even to date myself, but like in the MySpace blogging days, you know, where like everybody was kind of coming up, and I guess there was like that sense of being in New York at that time and going out and people like knowing me from a blog.
Right.
And it was just like, what? And it felt weird because anytime I was out, I felt like eyes were always on me.
Exactly.
And it's just like, it's a weird thing to be like, oh, I'm just sending information into the ether and I don't expect anybody to give a fuck about me. But then people are like, oh, I see you. And then even now with like, you know, for so many years, it's like now people see you and it's like, oh, I know who you, I've seen you on this thing. Oh, you were in Charlotte's website. Oh, you on this. I saw you in Full Frontal or whatever. And same thing with you. It's like, oh my God, keep hearing. You're like, I just want to get a latte. And there's a lot of anxiety on it.
And I really want people to understand that it's not like coming from a place of being like ungrateful or angry or anything like that. Like, I am simply wired as an awkward ass, anxious ass nigga. So a lot of those times that's
like, a medical diagnosis.
No, yeah, that's
awkward, anxious,
my scientific term for it. But it's like, you know, there are moments where I may just be, you know, at the grocery store or wherever and meet someone and I'm just like, oh my goodness, like, I don't know what exactly do I do to make this person get the experience that they want. Also, I really just kind of want to go home, or I've been having a shitty day. There's a whole lot that goes with it, but you still want to be like, you want to give that same love and support back to the people that are giving you love and support. Yeah. But then you also dealing with the same shit that every other depressed nigga is dealing with.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
oh my God.
It's just like an added layer of shit on top of the shit that you already fucking have to deal with. But again, for me, like, I was thinking of this as just me being the way that I am. And that's just, it is what it is. And even before I went to therapy the second time, I was well aware of, you know, depression and how it works as opposed to when I was 15, 16. Yeah. And I still just, you know, thought this is how I am and I can do it or whatever. I don't need to talk to nobody. Like, for what? I got this figured out, you know. And again, you have to remember that I'm coming from, as many Black people do, family where that's not even a thing.
Yeah. I think for all of us, for most of us, it's not a thing. It's like we're the first generation to kind of like deal with it and accept that there could be something going wrong. And now we have to figure this out by ourselves, the same way some of our parents might be the first to go to college. Exactly. And they have to figure that shit out by themselves. So it's just like this uncharted territory.
Of like doing a lot of the work on your own and understanding that a lot of people that look like us are not going to understand or be on board immediately. Yeah. So I love things like this because more and more people of color, Black people specifically, are opening up to the fact that we need therapy more than anybody the fuck else. Yeah. Like, for the longest time, we've been told by Black family members and friends that like depression is a white person's thing, and
it's
like,
white
what lazy white people do, and rich people, they can afford to be depressed. That's not a real thing, and blah, 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 blah. Like, look at what being Black in America on Earth means. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is just like there is scientific evidence to back up the fact that if you are Black, Negro, you might want to talk to somebody.
Yeah, you should. But then the other side is you don't want to tell your business.
Right.
So it's like, well, how do I talk to somebody whilst not telling the business?
I mean, well,
It's like, how do you?
if you're speaking to like an actual professional, like is there a guideline in their job for them?
Well, they don't tell you. They won't
not say
share
shit
it. Yeah.
to anybody. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if many of them don't care to share it with anybody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you gotta think, especially like I'm seeing a psychiatrist. So
Yeah.
like the shit that I talked to this woman about, I'm sure it's like nothing in comparison to all of the stories she's heard.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not really concerned with sharing things with this woman that I feel like I can't talk to anybody about, or I don't want people to know my business or whatever. I have had moments before when I've spoken to her and been like, "No, I don't want you to judge me," and she's like, "I couldn't if I wanted to," you know, like so, you know, say what you need to say.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. Like it's been a really freeing experience for me, and I think it's probably one of the best decisions that I've made. When my grandmother died, though, that just what pushed me over the edge, because I was like mentally, emotionally, like drowning. Like I felt
Really?
like, okay, I'm okay. So here,
Let's get into it.
this is gonna sound so random and dumb.
I'm with it. This won't be the first random and dumb thing you've ever said to me.
For about like maybe a week straight after my mother called me and told me that my grandmother died, I might be embellishing. Maybe it was like 4 days straight. I sat on the floor in my living room and I played Disney Infinity
Oh my god.
all day, every day for that maybe 4 days, because they just had the Star Wars expansion pack or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I literally rebuilt almost a whole Star Wars planet. Mind you, I just watched Star Wars, like all of the movies, maybe a few months prior.
I just saw the first Star Wars last week. So
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not even a huge fan, but it was just like that game was so RIP, by the way. It was so like intricate, and there was just a lot that you can do with your imagination. So I like surrendered myself to that game, and I sat in the same spot. I'm sure I didn't even shower. I was just like, I turned my brain off.
You were locked in.
And that was it. And I think my mother had to call me and snap me out of it a bit. And of course I had to fly to Miami. So at some point in that whole thing, when I got back, I was like, if I don't go and talk to somebody at this point, it might be a wrap for me very soon.
Yeah.
So I did. And it was a great decision.
Did you speak to your grandmother a lot about things, or was like you guys were like really close, or?
She helped raise me. So she lived literally, first of all, when I was born, my parents lived with her, like in her house.
Okay.
So I think that we moved into our own home maybe when I was 2 or something. But even that home was literally 1 block away from my grandmother's house. So like she was literally like 3 minutes if I wanted to walk. So when I was acting the fuck up in school, and by acting up, I mean not doing anything.
Okay.
Like I wasn't like a school bully or a clown. I wasn't like, I didn't do graffiti or nothing. I just wasn't doing work.
Okay.
Or I talked too much.
Okay, sounds right.
So, right, exactly. Yeah. So when I was acting up in maybe like the 5th grade, my mother and father made me go and live with my grandmother because she was a teacher. Okay. She taught my dad. And
homeschooled the whole way?
No, like she taught, like she was a teacher in school in Jamaica, and my father went to that school.
Okay, so she literally was a teacher.
So she literally taught my dad as well as classes.
Yeah.
And then she was a teacher in Miami. She was a teacher like to the very end. So my grandmother just taught the end. Yeah. And when I was not doing well in school, I was made to go and live with her. She was very strict too. So knowing that you're in her house is like, all right, you know what I'm saying? Don't sit with your mouth open. Mm-hmm. Make sure that you say your grace and just act like you've got some fucking sense. You know what I'm saying? Even so much as like if my grandmother would call me, like call our names, we couldn't say yes. You had to say yes, grandma. Like
very, very Jamaican.
Very
West
Jamaican.
Indian. Very,
like she would it would be literally like she would call my name and I would say yes, and there was just silence. And they would have to like snap quickly enough, like before she responded. Because if I waited too long, she'd be like, "I'm not one of your friends." You know what I'm saying? Like, so it was not a game in her house at all. So anytime I was acting up or whatever, in school, even when I wasn't acting up, and I mean, in the summertime, we had to do work Monday through Friday as if we were in school anyway. We had to write essays every day of the week before we could play games or go outside or do anything, like, even when I wasn't in her house. Yeah. So she was just that type of involved in, like, my literal, like, the raising me, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, we were really, really, really close. I give her a lot of credit for me being the type of person that I am.
Yeah.
For me speaking the way that I speak, for me loving knowledge as much as I do. And a lot of my sense of humor, I feel like, comes from her, too, because she was hilarious.
Yeah.
And didn't know that she was so funny. So, yeah. And I was literally actually, again, tying in the whole recognizable, you know, shit that we always have to go through.
Yeah.
I was in Europe when she was sick, and I had to go and do these shows in London.
Was that the live shows?
Yeah, I was doing live shows for the Read, and I did a show in London when she was sick, and I had, like, it was already booked. This literally couldn't have been worse timing. So I had to go and, like, do that show and then try to rush back. Okay. So that I could go and see her in the hospital before she died.
Wow.
And she died, like, as soon as I got back to the States. Oh. So, like, I didn't even get a chance to, like, go and see her and, like, hug her and tell her I love her and all that type of stuff or any of that. Like, so I was just like...
But she knew.
Yeah, I mean...
It's that thing for you.
Right, exactly. Because I know that she was, like, asking for me and all this type of stuff when she was in the hospital and stuff. So I was devastated. I was just, like... Literally, somebody, like a professional, is going to have to step in.
We need the big guns.
Or I'm not going to make it.
Oh, man.
So that's what I did. And ever since then, it's been healing from that, obviously, and any other thing. I've talked about exes. I've talked about, you know, being Kid Fury. I've talked about just, like, not being motivated, anything. I talked to her about pretty much everything, and it just gives you a sense of, like, awareness again, which I feel like helps you a lot through episodes of depression or anxiety, because you can recognize it as that and not just, like, blame yourself so much for it, because I feel like when we start to do that, that's when we really start to, like, chip away at, like, a lot of important shit. So to be able to be like, all right, I'm not really fucking up so much as my depression is fucking me up.
Yes.
And now I have more tools to, like, navigate that mess.
Yeah, I when I went into the hospital and I checked myself in, I was just, like, at my wit's end, where it was just like, I don't know what's going on. I feel like I lost, like, all of, like, my sense. You know what I mean? I was like, what am I doing? What's my purpose? I have no purpose. And then when I went into the hospital, I was, like, looking at everybody else around me, and I was like, oh, I'm just fucked up. Like, I'm just, like, really sad and really anxious. And then that's when, like, you know, going like through the outpatient treatment, they're like, you know, you have mixed mood, anxiety, and depression disorder. I was like, well, what's that? Well, you get a lot of you get a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, and you're, like, internalizing all these things. So you're so sad sometimes that you don't get certain things done, or you procrastinate, and then you know you have these tasks to do, and now you're so anxious that you don't get anything done, which makes you depressed again. And now you're in this cycle of unproductivity, and nothing gets done.
Right. Like, these things have names. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't know.
Neither did I. Like, neither did I. I thought it was just like, you know, you're depressed and that's the end, and you can get some pills if you want to be, like, high or not. Like, I didn't realize that there are so many different forms of depression, so many ways that they can come at you, and it's, like, real shit. Yes. So when I sat down with this woman, she was like, oh, you have a thing. Like, after a few times that we met, she was like, I believe that you have dysthymia. And I was like, what?
What's that? Yeah.
Right. It sounded like, you know, something you get from mosquitoes.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, what? And she broke it down for me, and she gave me, and then that's another thing I really love about this lady, is that she's so aware of, like, the science behind everything as well. So it's not just about, like, listening to you and connecting with you on the maybe the surface stuff. Yeah. But also, like, she really is like, okay, if she's like, if she's like suggesting maybe like a type of medication, she's like, this is just a suggestion. This is how it would happen if you chose to do, you didn't want to take it or whatever. Here are all the misconceptions about medication. This one in particular, as well as medication in general. Yeah. Here's how it works. Here, like everything was laid out with so much detail. Like it just couldn't be any better. So anyway, when she told me about dysthymia and she broke it all down to me, and of course I went home and read even more about it, I was like, my nigga, like I've just been walking around as a dysthymian for like all of these years, and I could have been reading actual books and articles and Wikipedia pages about me.
And you just never even thought about that shit.
Like I had to sit down with someone whose job it is to talk about this stuff, to figure out like, this is what the fuck is going on with me. Yeah. And like how to get a handle on it.
It's one of those things where like, for me, it's like now that I'm on medication, I'm being like, just more like forthcoming with like feelings and being able to talk and just being more productive, changing the diet and everything. I kind of look back at all those times in the past where I was like, oh, I've had these great ideas and I never like went for the things that I wanted to do. You know what I mean? And it's even like to where I'm at now in my career with things that are going on, where it's like, I remember those times when you would come to New York and like how to me, it wasn't like a crazy thing, but it was just like, man, he's just so fucking brave. You know what I mean? Just like, hey, I'm coming. Like what's happening? Where are you? I'm coming. You know what I mean? And it's like to hear that you went and talked to somebody, you know, like 3 years ago and still was able to function through all of that. Yeah. It's like, how were you able to do that? What was like the driving force for you? How were you, even in that depressive state, even with all that bullshit, before knowing, you know, what was quote unquote wrong? Right. How did you push through with all that shit?
You know,
give the answer to life right now.
So before I was talking to someone, how I pushed through, to be honest with you, many days I had no idea. Sometimes I still don't know. And sometimes I'm still not sure how I'm going to push through. But to me, it's like you either did or you're not, right? Yeah. And if you're not, then you might as well like just try, you know what I mean? Yeah. And also like hating 9-to-5s. Never liked them. Ugh. Never liked answering to anyone. Never liked bosses. None of that. So I was not like, okay. Plus I never finished college. So I'm like, all right, it's either this or I'm going down to like the Metro PCS store or something and filling out an application. Phones. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I just know I'm going to be even more miserable if I have to deal with all the depression I'm dealing with now. And then a nagging, more than likely white person who is like getting on my nerves all day when I'm trying to sell some shit that I don't even want. So I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like I think that by the time I got to New York, it was like, I've come this far. I might as well keep going until I don't have any fucking option. And there was a lot of stuff. I feel like I probably missed out on some opportunities. I feel like I probably, you know, didn't do my best. I mean, like, like not to say that I'm fine. You know but I'm just, but like,
are you okay?
Like,
are you good, man? You good?
There was probably some like connections or like dope shit I could have done at the time if I would have gotten out of my own way or my own head.
Was this when you had the place?
This is when I was living with them Dominican toddlers and their grandma. Yeah,
because I remember it might have been the day you met, or like around that week that you were up with me over there, and I think you had met Beyonce. Or like you've seen her, and then it was like, and we were talking about like there was like one opportunity that was there, and you were like, I don't know about this at all. Right. And I remember, and it's like it's so crazy to see like the difference. You know what I mean? Because at that time I was like, I don't know, this sounds good, but I don't know what these people are talking about, and people lie all the time in this industry, da 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 da. And then now you're like, oh no, I know what I'm doing. I got phone meetings, like shit's real.
And you know what? I think that I know that I leaned on Kid Fury a lot as therapy. What do you mean? Well, Kid Fury is kind of a place where I went and still go, but it began as a way for me to, I feel like, have a voice, because
Yeah.
I was so like afraid of people, constantly picked on, sitting in the back of the class with, you know, a huge Dipset hoodie on. It's Miami. It's
Yeah.
85 degrees. Why do you have a hoodie on?
What are you
much
doing?
less Dipset? Like, furthermore, who are they? Like, Miami was,
Hey, what are you
like,
doing?
Miami was very much like, what are you talking about? And
Jim Jones was that influential to your life. That
loved
you...
him. I had a friend in maybe like 8th or ninth grade, that was from, I think he was from Harlem.
Okay.
So I was introduced to
early Cam, early
all of the
Dipset,
like
yeah.
good shit,
Duos.
not just the singles and stuff,
Yeah.
like all of the good shit. And I was like, this is
The
fantastic.
B-sides, yeah.
But yeah, like when I started my blog and when I started doing YouTube and everything like that, it was just a way for me to like tell jokes and feel like the things that I was thinking mattered on one way or the next, like just a place for me to have a personality.
Yeah. Well,
You know?
I remember, I mean, I don't even know if you remember this. Like, we had like a long conversation on the phone. This was like before the videos. This was like right before then. And I remember we were just talking about how nuts it is with like the blogging and feeling like that thing of like, there was traction, but it's like, but something is missing. And then like us talking about it, and you were like, you know what? Videos. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we just do videos. And then seeing that, like, yeah, because they don't see your personality with the words. You know, and same thing, like, even with, like, when we talk about, like, stand-up, right? And it was something, like, we've talked about, and it's like, yeah, do that shit.
Yeah.
If that's in you, then you have to do it. But that anxiety is like, okay, well, if I look at these people of the grades and I want to be this, but I don't want to not treat it with the same kind of utmost respect and, ugh. Sorry, I'm just kidding. Like,
No, like I totally agree. And I feel like I also felt like the fact that I was able to make some people laugh, whatever the number, if it was 10 people reading my blog, if it was like 30 people who watched a video, I felt like I was doing something that mattered. And it was for everybody, but I was just thinking, again, even maybe a little subconsciously in the beginning, that there've got to be other people out there like me who just need a laugh, you know, and that's it. And so, and I mean, you know, like the percentage of comics that are depressed as shit. Like we already
100%,
like 150,000% of them. All of them are like battling some of the biggest fucking demons. Yeah. And I think that's why many of us rush into comedy and performing comedy so much, because we know that it's like to fucking need it. Yeah. So I think that more than anything probably helped me to keep going in those moments, especially by the time that I got here, because it was like, I'm going to go and like joke and laugh. By the time the fucking read started, I had someone in here that I could joke and laugh with, and she could make me laugh. So it was its own form of therapy in itself. I feel like if I was doing almost anything else with my time, I probably wouldn't be here. Yeah.
It's like, in a way, that's like saved your life.
Yeah. Definitely.
It legit just like
for sure.
It gave it purpose. And it's such a weird thing too, because it's like sometimes I think about even doing this, I think there's gonna be, because I hope it's like a lot of like kids of color or like, you know, people of color can listen to this. And I feel like even from a young age, I think with you and with me and other like people in the public eye, we have these ideas of things that we want to do, and it feels so crazy to chase them because like we grow up with that, go to college, get a job, right? And so like, you know, I went to college and I dropped out, and then I finished school just because I was like, okay, my dad is just not having me not graduate from college. And it's like, okay, I got this degree, now what? Right. I have this piece of paper that I paid so much money for, and I don't want to do nothing with it.
Or I'm still paying for it.
You know, depending on who you ask. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You're still paying for this shit. And I just want people to be able to listen to something like this and be like, okay, maybe I'm not alone, even in a sense of, like, they might be feeling what you're feeling and might be having the same afflictions that you have and have not talked to somebody yet. Right.
Exactly.
That's so fucking nuts, man.
Because we're raised to think that there's no reason to talk to anybody, or that there's something wrong if you do. Yeah. Or that you'll be painted as, like, quote unquote, the crazy, or, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, there's just a way that people of color specifically are sort of taught to look at seeking help for your mental health. And like I said, I'm just kind of glad that we're at a point now where a lot of that is deteriorating, especially with like the rate of like suicide and all of this stuff for like kids, teenagers. It's just ridiculous. And it is dope to have shows like this where you can bring in, you know, people who are a little bit younger, or comics, or people who are going to have fun and cuss and do all of the stuff
just to talk about
that like shows a 15-year-old that, oh yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? Because you don't want somebody, when you're a teenager, like
the angst,
somebody with their gray hairs and stuff. No shade, I'm sure like mine are coming in, but
my grays are here already, baby.
But you don't want to feel preached at. It's really easy when you're extremely young or when you're a teen to have people giving you 100% truth and not really receive it, because it's like, well, what the fuck do you know?
Exactly. I did a speech. I did two at one of these really fancy private schools in the city, right? And it was funny because it's like, I'm supposed to talk to them about how they shouldn't be depressed. And I'm like, all of you here are rich. Like, all of your families are rich. All of you are rich. And I'm just like looking like I'm not even getting paid enough. I didn't know how rich you guys were. And I'm trying to tell you to keep your lives together. And then it's just like, oh, it's not even about the money. It's really about that self-esteem inside of you. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's just so nuts.
Yeah.
Like,
because money literally can't buy it.
It can't buy everything. I mean, it could get you out of debt.
Yeah. But and that may make you feel good.
For a little bit.
For a little bit. But you're still gonna have to come right back around to what's really going on in your head.
That is when you got out of high school, right? How was it for you? Oh, this is a question I have for you, because we were talking about suicide. Have you ever been suicidal?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And what stopped you?
My mom.
Your mom?
Yeah. Just knowing that she would be like devastated if I were dead.
Okay.
That's literally it. And I mean, like, no shade, Daddy. I know you would be over it too.
You're gonna no shade.
I'm sorry. Like, both of them would be, you know, devastated. Yes, but I don't know. The first thing that I've always thought about when I came really, really, really close, is like my mother's reaction. Just like especially because my mother is. I've seen my mother be emotional, like good cries, bad cries, many times throughout my life, and it's the worst. Nobody likes seeing their mama cry.
No,
nobody. No. I've seen my dad shed a tear once, like in my whole life.
What was it? What was it for? Was it something dramatic, or was it just like Jamaican feelings?
It was like Jamaican dad feelings, and honestly, I feel like my dad was dealing with real ass depression his whole life too.
And would never,
because it's not a thing for that generation. You know what I'm saying? And you got 3 kids.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You got to keep a house over their head. I mean, a roof over their head.
And a house.
You know what I'm saying? You're working multiple jobs, of course, again, because Jamaican. Yeah. All of this, like, I know that there was just like I feel like the way that I feel like there's a constant pressure for me to perform well for people and look out for people and, you know, make them laugh on Thursdays with the podcast and stuff. I feel like my dad felt a huge pressure on himself to take care of a family and be like, you know, the king of the castle and make sure that everybody was straight and stuff. And so, I saw him shed a tear one time because he was really upset with me for not doing well in school or lying about my report, just being mad. Yeah. And like, we just got into like a really heated,
just an argument or
moment. Like,
thing?
No, well, he just got really, really,
he was
really
pissed.
upset with
you
me.
Versus you. Okay.
Really, really upset. And so much so that I'm not even gonna tell all my business.
Okay, don't tell all your business.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just like, it was bad.
Okay.
And maybe the following day, he came into the house, and I would always get home first from school since I was like the oldest in the house. Yeah. And so I think it was just the two of us in the house at the time he came and sat down with me, and he like broke down why he got so angry and like apologized. And I feel like he just broke down and like he cried because he's me. You know what I'm saying? Like, nigga, like, that's all I'm saying. It's like, my daddy is me. I am my daddy. That's all that it was. Like, I feel like he just understood that he loved me so much and he felt upset that he got so angry or whatever, but tried to, like, like try to get me to understand why he was so disappointed and frustrated with me. And like when I saw that, I was like, what? I was in high school at that time, so I was like, Tiger? Like I was just like, what? My daddy is human.
That's nuts to like see. Anytime you see your parent kind of like become a person. And you see the love, because every time, you know, like if something goes on with your parents and they're like, you know, I do this because I love you, whatever. Or when you get that real, like, as a person, I need you to understand this because this is a pivotal moment in your life. And this is why I'm telling you that always cuts deep, because that's going to be with you forever.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're like, okay, I saw that single tear roll down. I saw your eyes well up.
That's when I was like, oh, I fucked up. This man has like... really, we were spoiled. Like, we weren't even like, we were so spoiled. Not rich by any means, but like spoiled to the fact that like my daddy would just come home and surprise us with games. That's why I'm a gamer to this day. He would like, you know what I'm saying?
Never told me that. I didn't know you would just get games.
Yeah, for sure. Like,
fuck out of here.
Like, there were many Christmases where my daddy would like buy like a cardboard box, maybe half the size of this table, for each of the 3 boys in the house. Oh my God. And would fill it with like a bunch of toys, candy, like wild shit. And my mama every Christmas would be so over him, like, what is this? What is like, how are they going to do anything when they get everything from you? Like, I don't understand it. The video games are a waste of money. All of this is madness. So like, my dad was is an amazing father, was strict, was rough, and I now know as an adult that he was dealing with a lot of the shit that I'm dealing with, was dealing with at the time, living in his house and shit like that too. But to circle back around, the thing that really kept me from taking my own life is that every time I came close, I would see my mom crying in my head. I would hear them crying. I always thought that my dad would probably just be like frozen. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I don't even know.
You can't even picture the emotion. You can't even, oh, man.
I couldn't devastate my family, and that's the only reason. That's it.
Yeah, that was like the same reason for me. It was like, and it's weird because like in that suicidal moment, you're just like, fuck everything. And then before you take that step, everybody starts coming into your mind, you know, all your family, like, oh, this person wouldn't be, like, no one would really be happy about it. Yeah. And so you just think about how devastated everyone would be, and then that guilt keeps you here. You know what I mean? Like, damn, I don't want to be that motherfucker who's just destroying lives. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to kill myself and people be mad at me. Exactly. You know what I mean? That's oh man, I
just couldn't put them through it. So I think that's definitely helped me in those moments where I felt suicidal. But, you know, getting help and speaking to people about it, and also having a podcast where I can speak openly about it as much as I want to. I feel like it helps because it gets the dialogue going. And every single time that we on our show have,
I know you guys are talking about it more, so really, that's really dope.
Yeah, when we have like in-depth moments about mental health, without fail, every week we get responses from someone who says, oh my gosh, I have been feeling the exact same fucking way. I didn't know how to like put it to words. I didn't know how to explain this to people. Thank you. Or I just started going to therapy, or I just started Talkspace, or whatever. Best decision I've ever made. And that's like great, because honestly, this shit has helped me immensely.
Yeah, I did this podcast where I just talked about like my history and going into like the hospital, and like my friend being murdered, and like all my traumas. And what surprised me was because that podcast has such like a non-black base. And there were so many people reaching out to me, like, oh my, the way you said that, I went through these same things. Like my friend died here in Afghanistan, and this happened, and it's just like, oh, this is a shared human experience of going through imposter syndrome sometimes, going through the grief sometimes of feeling not adequate in like loving relationships for some times, not understanding personal value at sometimes, and it's like that can all just be in your head,
right?
You know, because people can look at you and be like, oh, things are great,
right?
And you have enough, and like you can be so depressed where you can say, okay, well, I can do things to make sure people think that I'm great, because I don't want them to see me upset,
right?
And when you spend so much of your life doing that, you never fix the problem. So now you're just like this great defense of positivity,
right?
And inside is just like one little little feather can just break the whole thing.
The whole entire fucking thing. Yeah, we're just trained to kind of like deal with it or ignore it and like power through it rather than acknowledging it and accepting it and then adapting to it. You know, because it's like I haven't seen this therapist, this woman for like I said, almost 3 years now, and I still have like moments, you know what I'm saying? It's not like, it's not like, you know, I go and I speak to this woman every week and now I just have the recipe and I don't get depressed anymore. Or when I do get depressed, here's the, you know, the switch that I hit. Yeah. And then it all turns out. No, it's still really fucking hard a lot of the time. I just know what it is now and I can recognize it and I can tell myself it's temporary and I just kind of know a little bit, you know, how to sort of deal with it. So I'm just, you know, glad that I made the decision to start going to therapy and being open about it and talking about it. You know, I'm not really ashamed of too much that goes on with me anyway. Yeah. So like being able to talk about it openly with people is dope. And also being able to like communicate with friends and family about it, because I feel like it has brought me closer to a lot of people. Okay. I feel like it's helped a lot of people understand me better that have been in some who have been in my life for my whole life. Yeah. And I feel like it also puts me in positions where when I know that I'm having an episode and I'm around people I care about, rather than doing whatever sort of problematic shit that I would do before, like have an attitude or, you know, like a tone or whatever. Now I make an attempt to be like, I'm having an episode. This is what's going on. I'm all over the place today. So if I seem off, this is why. Don't take it personal. You know, like I've been able to do that with my friends and family a lot better now, and I feel like it's opened up communication for us in like much better ways. Because in like even my father was sometimes when I feel like he was having episodes would, you know, be upset, and I would just be like, oh, my daddy is so upset all the time, but he's just grumpy. That's how daddies are and stuff like that. And then as I got older, I was like, no, this nigga was busting his motherfucking ass every fucking day and coming home to these motherfucking kids like sitting backwards on the fucking chair when he told you not to. Like just dumb
just
shit.
Stupid like, shit.
And now here you go with your dumb shit. I've dealt with work all day, 2 jobs, Miami traffic, and now you are sitting in this fucking like I just get it now. You know what I'm saying?
Perspective is such a motherfucker.
It's
like,
ridiculous.
It's crazy. Like once it's like when you get to that point, I guess it could be through therapy or whatever, where it's like you start recognizing the truths about yourself, and then you start looking at like, okay, well, now that I know the truth about myself, how do I look at myself versus being with other people? And you're like, oh, I was an asshole here. I didn't know I was being an asshole, but I was one here.
There. Yeah, that was my fault too. Like, I can totally.
It's like, okay, you accept it, and you're also like, okay, so now that I know that, I won't do this again, and let's move forward. And I think that's the thing of like, of being depressed or having those feelings and being a victim to it or struggling with depression or any of like that mental shit and coping with it and living and managing that, to say, okay, this is just a part of how like I'm wired because of trauma or because of how like balance or whatever the fuck, but now I'm not going to be subdued by it. You know, I'm not going to take this off my path. This is not going to deter me from being great or from loving life or whatever. You know, I just think that's so fucking important. Right. You know? Yeah. So I think that's it. Unless there's anything else you want to say? Because I think, I don't know.
No, this is just dope.
Okay. It's like, this wasn't crazy, right? It wasn't a crazy thing. I think people I was asking people if they want to do it. It's funny because I knew that you would do it because like we had talked about it. Right. But I think there's a lot of other people who are kind of scared. Yeah. And because it's not out yet. Yeah. That people are kind of like, well, what is it? But I'm just like, we're just having a conversation about it and understanding like, when people are so scared to do the podcast, it's like, oh, this is why I need to do the podcast, because we're so scared to talk about it.
So scared to talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's really not something to be afraid to talk about. Like, when you think about how many people are dealing with this shit on a regular fucking basis, like it's almost like talking about the flu to me or having a cold. Like it's just not, it's real fucking shit. And you wouldn't be surprised how many people need to hear some of y'all talk about it, especially people that you're going to bring in here. Cause I'm sure you're going to bring in people who have motherfuckers that admire them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or people who, you know, really look up to them in the workspace or family members or whatever. You know, you're going to have people in here who have people that really care about their particular opinion or story. Yeah. And you're going to have way more people who are going to thank you for that than people who are like, oh, in fact, no one. I just can't, like,
talk your shit, please.
I've talked about being nuts for years on my fucking podcast. I've never had anyone say anything like derogatory or mean or shaming about my mental health at all.
I think that might be like low key the fear, because it's like people are like, oh, they might call me crazy, they might do this. I'm like, man, look at this depressed ass motherfucker. Like, that's probably not gonna happen.
It's just resistance to being vulnerable. Like, people just don't want to put themselves in a place where, you know, you're giving out information that makes you feel like you can be targeted by it. But I'm here, like, nobody really cares to, like, attack you for being sad. You know what I'm saying? Like, or anxious or you know what I'm saying?
Nobody cares.
Most people, if somebody did, they are upset because they are too.
Yeah, they're going through it themselves, and this is how they're trying to deal with it.
And you were given a mic to talk about it. And how dare you? Like, nobody's
gonna care. I mean, that's the only thing that, like, I guess, like, my I don't want to say fear is, like, because I know like how when you hit your stride and then, like, you have so many eyes on you now, like, just I guess, like, online presence wise, from going from just you from, like, So Furious to The Read to, you know, what's about to be, you know, the project that you're working on. It's like, oh, there's just more eyes, you know, and that feeling for me, because I'm like a very private person for the most part, where it's like, I only spend my time with people I love and respect, and I'm just like, I just don't want to bother anybody. Just let me get my food. I'm gonna go home. Hey, love everybody, but just leave me be, right? And I have that anxiety about, like, everything I do, where it's like, all right, things are looking up, things are looking real good, but I'm just like, all right, I just don't want to. You know what I mean? I just don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to disappoint anybody.
Yeah, but no, I've been talking to my therapist a lot lately about, like, about the fact that I'm working on something that would place more eyes on me.
Yeah.
And, like,
how's that feel?
Dealing with, I mean, there's a lot that's going on in my head behind that, but
I'm on my end, I, like, remember you telling me about, like, the idea of it when we were, like, and I'm just, like, so happy for you for it. But it's also like, no, I mean, I can believe it, but it's also the thing of, like, also knowing you, it's like, all right, I hope, like, even when the news came out and I hit you up, I was like, all right, I know shit is going crazy right now. But, you know, hey, congrats.
Thank you.
Need something, you know what I mean? Like, I know this shit is about to get weird.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know fully what to expect, but I think that although I still have a lot of anxiety behind it, I'm a property of the people, you know, like, and when I'm outside of my house anywhere, like, that's what it is. And I'm trying to just get more accustomed to that so I can give people, you know, the experience that they're looking for if they bump into me at fucking Whole Foods or somewhere on 125th Street or whatever the fuck, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like what has helped me to, like, try to deal with that rather than turning my back to it and feeling afraid to keep moving is that I genuinely feel like I'm supposed to be doing this. Yeah. You know, like, I feel like the fact that I'm genuinely confused as to how the fuck I got this far and I'm here, to me, tells me that, like, God has set me up to be on this particular path, and it would almost be like a smack in the face to be like, I'm not doing it because I can't say hi to people. Like, you know,
like, what are we doing?
So, I don't know. I'm just gonna keep going on this journey until it makes sense that it's done or whatever. I don't know. But
thanks for such a happy note.
Yeah, until it's over or whatnot. God. Maybe I'm hopeful. Best case, I live a very, very long life, and it's only over when I die.
That's how it is.
That's what we're hoping for.
That's what we all hope for. Yeah. See, that's it. That's it.
All right.
It's done. It's done. Yeah, but great. Yeah.